Hey Lioness, so our topic today is captive save and you know the rest. It was really interesting to see how many women can really relate to this phrase. And as I was talking to my brother and having this conversation, I thought it was really intriguing to know, why does it come so easy for women to be captive save? Why? Like, it's just really just embedded into us to want to help. Of course, we're women, we are nurturing. But I also think that's because of the way the woman is wired, other than the nurturing part. And I'm going to get into that. First, what is a captive save? That is a woman trying to best set the man up for his best version of himself. Whether that's helping him realize certain things, help aiding him in different things, and trying to uplift him from the past mistakes that he's made or the mistakes that he's making, trying to redirect that into a more positive direction. Ultimately just uplifting the man, right? That's really what it means, honestly. But I think that it has got a bad rap because of how we use it, right? Like, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna explain this. Captive save a hoe, okay, is really just someone that is a helpmate. That's all it really is. Because the problem with it is the men that we choose to be a helpmate to is the reason for you being a captive save. You're only a captive save when it's someone that's unhealthy. You're a helpmate to someone that is healthy. So those two are still interchangeable depending on the man that you're dealing with. See, this is why as women it becomes so natural for us to be captive save, is because we were made to be a helpmate. In Genesis 2:18 it says that a woman was made for a man, right? It's just invented into us. It's invented into us to be a helpmate for a man. We were made to help a man. That's just our wiring. People can argue any other thing. I'm not saying that individually we don't have our callings from the Lord, but our ultimate calling is being a wife. And I may get some backlash for that, but that's the truth. But how we fall victim to that is the men that we choose. If you're choosing a man that is not healthy and toxic, right, we are basically holding dead weight. That eventually that the relationship we got in, we were healthy, we were glowing, we got out of, and now we're more damaged. But if I deal with a man that is healthy but needs help, right, in building his empire, in running his household, and just keeping it up and doing all these different things, whatever the man is in need, because I do believe that every man is different in their need process, that is what you're there to do, right, ultimately. So I think that is really important for us to understand how we fall victim to being a captive save and how we set ourselves up into being a helpmate. So the next thing is what it is before it is tainted. So that's, again, being a helpmate is what you're really trying to do, but then it becomes to being captive save because of the man that you're dealing with. And then the next point is, what have our past experience in our relationship have shaped our thoughts process in the way that we serve men? So I knew growing up that I didn't want to be in a relationship where I had to basically have the men role. I seen what it did to the women in my family, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I just really don't. And I know that all of them have done it out of survival, right? I don't fault them in the sense of surviving, but I also feel that it is your responsibility, right, to deal with the things that come with the toxic relationships. And I think that's one of the hardest things. And I am grateful and love the women that are in my family that has paved the way for me, and all their sacrifice and all the hard work that they have done to get me and my brother and here, you know, my mom and my grandmother and them. So, but the reason why I love this topic is because I think it's very important for us as women to hold each other accountable for our decisions, right? And ultimately, we always have these discussions and we talk about the men, but really it is our decisions to deal with the men that we deal with. And we have to understand that we have the power to deal with certain men or don't deal with them, right? And sometimes we know how a man is and we tend to ignore it. And then we get ourselves in a situation and then we complain about it, right? I know that at a younger age that it has shaped me into what I didn't want in a man, but I didn't really know how to get what I wanted. And the things that I wanted was love and stability. And I didn't understand what that looked like in a healthier sense. So I got into some relationships that wasn't healthy just for the feeling of love and at least I have stability. I have someone, regardless on how it was being given to me. And that is Captive Save, right? It wasn't a healthy relationship. And though I got in there and I was healthy, I was glowing, I was good, I came out more damaged and having to deal with things if I wasn't in that relationship. So I think that we have to understand in what ways does us getting in these toxic relationships shape the way we view a man's role and a woman's role, right? Because when you go into these survival modes to protect you and your kids or just to protect your heart, right, you tend to get stronger and more masculine than normal than if you wasn't in that relationship, right? If you started with somebody that you trusted and he did everything right, then you will be able to submit and serve your man in the correct way. But now submission and role has a bad rap because of the man before you and what he showed you. In our reality, that it's a gift from God that we're able to submit and to serve our husbands, right? Because they're still serving us in other ways. And together we make a complete package. And I think that we need to rewire our perspective on what a wife is and what they bring to what they would say the table. The next point is, how did we come in and how do we leave out, right? That was what we just covered. How can we better put ourselves in the best predicament for entering another relationship with a man? I think this takes really some reflecting. I think if you're coming out of a relationship and has dealt with a man that has not been faithful, loving, respectful, has showed you the way that a man should be, right? That you have to sit down and think, what have you got out of that relationship and what are you continuing today, right? How is your thought process this different from when you walked in and how you walked out? And in what ways can you change that? You have to honestly think from what is a man wanting from a woman, not from a woman wanting from a man. A lot of the times as women, we think that men want what we think that they want, and that's not true. And if those things are lacking, that you just acknowledge those and work through them, right? That's what happens with trauma. They leave fragments that we have to deal with and pick back up, and that's okay. But it's better than to just ignore it and continue walking around, well, you have to accept who I am. No man has to accept who you are. It's either you are something that he needs or you're not, and I think that it's important for us to quit making excuses about, well, you just got to accept who I am. That's if you working on yourself. I mean, if I'm a work in progress, I'm never going to be perfect, right? I'm going to continue to work on myself throughout my life. But if you're just going to say, well, I'm not going to work on that because this is the way that I am, and this is what happened to me. Yes, but a lot of people go through trauma, and that doesn't justify what trauma has done to them and how they are reacting. It can come out in the sense of anger. It can come out in the sense of masculinity. It can come out in the sense of untrusting. Nobody wants to deal with that. That's just the honest truth. And if we were to be honest as women, we really need to keep ourselves accountable, that even if a man was to treat us wrong, what in it did we have a part, and how could we not do that same mistake moving forward? So when we do find a man, that we know we addressed our weaknesses, we addressed our mistakes, we addressed everything else, we know our strengths, so that you can acknowledge those and look forward to those as you date the next man. And then the next thing is getting back to being back submissive, available wife. Okay, so again, dealing with all those traumas, dealing with everything that came out of that bad relationship is very important. That way it sets you up to being healthy and acknowledging the good and bad things about yourself, because the enemy can't use nothing that you have not recognized. Let me tell you like that. It's like, if I own it, I own my good, I own my bad. I'm not lying to myself. I'm honest with myself, that there's nothing that you can use against me and to make me feel bad about, or nothing like that. Like, I'm a strong, and not saying that I'm independent, but I'm a strong Hebrew woman that will love a strong man. And when I date next, it's still, you know, I'm still in that process, still understanding what I want, and what I need to give as well. That is a conversation that, you know, I've always had with my brother. It's like, what is it that a man wants? Because, you know, we have few men in our family, and, you know, they wasn't the best examples for men. So again, it's going through scriptures and understanding, and seeking counsel, and all those things that are important, so you can understand what it is that you need in a man, and then what a man needs from you, so that you can become an available wife. Nothing justifies the things that we have been through with men. They were wrong. But what accountability that we have to take for our parts is for staying and for picking them. A lot of times we pick them even though they're bad anyway. And it could be just you feeling a void or whatever it is. Again, there could be plenty of reasons why we do what we do, but that doesn't justify it, because ultimately it has its consequences at the end. And the only thing we can control, again, is our actions. So I just want to encourage you with those few things, and just acknowledging this phrase, and how we get ourselves stuck in this phrase, and how to get ourselves out, and to look forward and not stay in the environment of our mistakes, knowing that we have the power to get back up and to renew our minds daily, and to renew our perspective on how marriage is looked at biblically, and what it is for a man and a woman to be in a marriage. And that is the most important thing for us as women to understand. And so I just want to encourage you. Hopefully we can have an open dialogue, and you guys have a blessed day. Shalom.